think time is not that much. I will ask a few questions, and also if you have any questions, feel free to fill it up, and I'll try to answer all the questions if time allowed it. Let me start with that. So Tony talked about AI and cognitive computing, and then Patrik talked about the segment of one and preventive maintenance, all this kind of thing. And also Andy talked about pretty good things about the social media and also the CCII, all the acronyms, right? That's pretty good. So, but back to Hong Kong. So where are we now? So are we really see some good trend that we are using AI and cognitive computing in our daily business? Are we seeing the people like Cathay or your company around, partners around, are they really making use of big data to do marketing, to do maintenance, or vice versa from to your side, right? So where are we now? So from Hong Kong perspective. Tony?
Well, I think we are still at a very starting moment at this point of time. From my interaction with our customers, I think many are aware this is coming, so they are doing a lot of what we call POCs, proof of concept type of work. But again, artificial intelligence, all this may not be that easy to give you a formula to calculate your return on investment. So a lot of our customers, in fact, are doing a lot of POCs on robotics, on cognitive computing, using data to prove that these are working. And then we will use that as a learning exercise to go on and improving the work. So I see that happening in the banking industry, happening in the insurance industry, retail. We have talked a lot about omni-channel, online, offline. A lot of work are being done over there. And I also believe that there will be a lot of opportunities when China is pushing out this One Belt, One Road campaign, where we have to work with very different countries. Every country has their own legal law. With the new technology in blockchain, you talk about smarter contract. You have all these relationships all together, and if you can have a computer that can help you to learn all the laws, the legal environments in the different countries, that would be very, very helpful to a lot of the companies who want to work on these One Belt, One Road opportunities.
Okay, Patrik, what do you think? Are the people really using it now in Hong Kong, or how does it compare to Europe, right?
Is my mic on? Yes, it's on. Very good. So I think the POC thing, I agree. We do also a lot of proof of concepts on new technologies like Watson and for automation of customer service. We have done a lot of trials. But that said, it's not only proof of concept for us, especially if you look at Cathay Pacific as a group. Asia Miles have been able to really benefit and utilize big data for customization of offerings and bringing new insights. So I think that's really interesting. Cathay Pacific IT is working as a supplier and partner, of course, for Asia Mile. We are one and the same. It's our other loyalty scheme in addition to Marco Polo. So, but if I look at Europe and especially Finland, I think the maturity is a bit higher, but Hong Kong is catching up really quickly. And what we have done in Cathay is that we invest in the people. So we try to find potentially, so of course we have a lot of good people in our IT department and business department. So investing in them, training them to the new technologies is, I think, the way we will continue. So you need to build these capabilities with your people.
That's good. Andy, I think this is very related to the question. How can smaller company, SME, make use of the big data advantages? Yeah.
We are also a SME, very small startup company. And in fact, there are a lot of tools in the market that is available for startup companies like us or SME companies that you don't have to pay a lot of money in order to get all the data analytics, including, say, for example, Google Analytics is for free. Social media analytics, there are a lot of platforms that you can subscribe for a very low price, several hundred dollars US. And I think it's not really about, very high level fancy NASA technology thing. It's basically the data that you have aggregated as a SME company, how you can make use of the data. I can tell you a lot of the big corporations that they have subscribed into our services. Most of the data is only useful for business owners, not for business marketers. Because it's only that those who can make decisions can make use of the data to make decisions. For colleagues, some of my employees, even though they have all the data on their hand, they might not be able to make any sort of decision. It's like full stacks of reports that they have. That's it. So it's really depending on how you can make use of all these data that you've aggregated and make decisions to drive the business forward. Yeah.
Tony, I want to comment that, how SME can...
Yeah, I agree with Andy that first of all, there are a lot of tools available free of charge, open source, so you can use that. But I do believe that the use of big data requires a lot of business intelligence. So you need to have the business skills, the knowledge, so that you can make use of those data. And this, again, lies sometimes with the expertise who have worked in the industry for a long time. But I think startups can work with those people to look at where the opportunities are. For us, for example, in fact, we have been working quite closely with startups in Cyberport because they have very new ideas. I think for bigger companies, we get used to doing things that way, and sometimes you lose that innovation touch. But then for new, innovative young people, they come in with those ideas that may not exist in our organization. But then they do not really know the business that well. So a combination of both the small startups together with people with the real industry knowledge would always sparkle and then come up with brilliant ideas to change the way we do business today. And I think that would really work out.
I want to get back to, Patrik on that. So Cathay Pacific or Asia Miles, you have a lot of SME partners.
Yes.
Right? And are you making use of your big data and analytics capability to really help your ecosystem to do better job?
I think this is not that mature at the moment, and I think that is exactly what we need to be focusing more in the future. So no.
Yeah, but I see that Cathay Pacific also leverage on Tony talk about. You do a lot of internal hackathon competition to really stimulate innovation, how to make use of data, right?
That's true, and I actually was lucky enough to be one of the mentors in our hackathon, which was a great opportunity to see what the young graduates in the region. We had a lot of young university students participating in our hackathon, and they were quite international around Asia, and they came up with so incredibly good ideas. We actually now have identified that I think we had about 20 teams, and of 11 of these initiatives we are further investigating and actually going to the POC phase, which is a proof of concept on top of it. So I think this is a really great opportunity, and I'm sure Cathay will arrange more of these hackathons because this was seen as a really big success by senior leadership.
Right, that's very good source for innovation there. So I think I got 3 questions, basically ask the same thing. So after listening all the good stuff about big data, do we need to concern about data privacy? So I think all of you need to handle this kind of stuff, right? So what's your view? Anyone?
That's the million-dollar question. So of course, data privacy is extremely important, and that is maybe why we are a bit conservative. So if we, and why the lead time to go to market is longer, because we tend to still want to keep our data very secured in our own data centers. Of course, we are looking at cloud computing, public clouds, and which would enable us to have a much shorter lead time from innovation to actually being able to produce the services. So that said, but data privacy is the key. It's not only about the legal aspect, it's also about the company reputation. So you really need to be very careful as an airline who has a vast information of your customer that they never leak out and they are always secure.
Okay. Andy?
There are two types of data. One type is your own proprietary data that you have owned. The other set of data is outside data. For example, social media data. And most of the data that we have aggregate in, we get it directly from these platforms, including, say, Facebook, Sina Weibo, WeChat, Twitter. So as long as the user, you guys, open your profile as a public profile versus a private profile, basically, these platforms would provide an official API and allowed us to get the data in an anonymous space. So we cannot know who you are. We can know in general there's a certain percentage of ladies or male and female in which location that they like the brand or they have shared or comment or what kinds of comments they have made on public page rather than in a private setting. So if you as individuals make a private setting, basically there's no way for us to tap into any of your information based on all these big giant unicorns that is happening. So there's nothing we have to worry about. But as a corporation, usually we don't set private, platforms because we want to promote the company and the brand. So we would, set public status. So I think that, as an individual, you have to be responsible for what you are sending out. All the photos or the write-ups that you have been releasing, publishing in these platforms, those are your privacy. As a corporation as well, the privacy would be more sensitive on your customers' database. So in terms of the T&C and how you make use of the data while working on the data analytic part, that would be very important. Yep.
Tony, anything to add to the data privacy thing?
Well, I think besides the data privacy, for those structured data that you get in your organization, the accuracy rate would be very high. But then for all those, some of the unstructured data you get from the social media, in fact, sometimes it is not true. So that's the reason why artificial intelligence would come in to make sure that all the data you have after the analytics, that they would be able to tell you how accurate it will be. Sometimes it's only 40% or 60%. So it's just up to you how to use that kind of data. Data privacy definitely is something I think all corporations have to be careful about. But then I also believe that as time goes on, there will be changes in the law to take care of that because of the data being much, much more open.
Yeah, I think Hong Kong, we do have the Data Privacy Commissioner here to really balance both sides. I think it's a good sign. And we also have enough good laws to protect our consumers on that. So I think it's good infrastructure in Hong Kong for that perspective. So I think the last question I want to go around is, how should we start? I think the audience might be a very advanced user of big data, or they haven't really started yet, right? So what's your recommendation? If they really haven't started yet, only learn big data a little bit, what is the first step? How do they start? Yeah.
I think the easiest way to start with, for businesses, maybe start from understanding your customer's persona, who you are serving, from your website, starting from your website, tracking down your traffics, and then, who is subscribing your newsletter, your email, what kinds of content you are feeding them. That's the most basic ones. And then you can set up your own sort of social media profiles as a corporation in different social platforms and engage with different customers' layers. And that you can also track down. And slowly, by bits and bits of what kinds of data you're collecting, maybe through different channels. So the first thing, I think it's collection of data. And then how you can make use of the data is to do some sort of correlation or comparison. And without the first two parts, basically there's nothing much to do because we can't just jump in and say, hey, let's interpret it, the set of data. Right. So I think the first thing is to collect all the data, whether it's from your POS, it's point of sales, it's from your Wi-Fi network, it's from your sales transactions or internal business intelligence team, you have to collect a set of data. And of course, in the process, there are a lot of junk data that you have to dump out. And with those sets of data, you can start to understand your customers, start to understand your competitors, and start to understand your own business. Or even myself, I'm collecting data of my own staff. My staff, what time they come in, why they are sick, to analyze the trends. We shoot out, then our decision, like last Friday, we give out a coffee in the morning. So we say, Happy Friday, free coffee for everyone. Because in the data, it shows us that everyone is late, overtime working. So we just thought that, well, maybe we just should give free coffee to everyone. And this Friday, we'll be giving out free beer at 5 o'clock Friday. So, to cheer out. So these are a little bit of data that you can play around first. And I think it's the easiest way to start.
Very smart boss. This is called data-driven boss. So it's very important. Sometimes you have to drive from the management, whether they're data-driven enough in terms of culture, in terms of the management style. So in a big company like Cathay, so how do you start? There's a lot of politics, power struggle, resources, whatever. There's a lot of challenges, right? So how do you start? How do you make it really?
I think the most important thing is to make sure what are the problems you want to solve. So we are so data rich, and we store a lot of information. Of course, we can store more, and data is the foundation. If you don't have data, there's nothing to refer to, but still it's about understanding what is the business problem you really want to solve. And I think it's very important to be very proactive if you work in business intelligence and analytics, to work with your business partners to help them understand what data can do, but it always have to be driven by the business question, because otherwise you will create a lot of analytics that maybe nobody actually will be using in making the business decisions. So I think that is the key in any big organization.
How about Tony?
Yeah, I think both Andy, Patrik, very good points. I think you have data, you have a business problem, and of course, just jump into it. There are a lot of tools free today in the cloud environment, not just IBM, I think Google, I think Microsoft, they also have this type of free tools that you can use. You just pour your data into those systems, and then you just interact with the systems. You can ask questions, and then the system will try to answer. The answer may not be as what you wish to have, but then you can ask them further questions, and eventually you will get to know it much better. Unless you try that, and then you will see the improvement, then I think you will not be afraid of it, and then you will start to use it more and more. Now, of course, if you want to do a more formal type after you have tried this, the thing is to do kind of like a design workshop. As Patrik said, you define the business problem, you get your expertise together, get someone to facilitate the session, you ask questions, and then you start to design how you resolve that. But I think the first most important thing is you start to get into it and use it.
Right. That's a very good advice. In fact, I think for the next 3 years, if you are in Hong Kong or you have offices in Hong Kong, it's a good news, because all the major universities in Hong Kong, they already have a bachelor degree or master degree in data science or business analytics. Even in the vocational school, they are training the data engineers. So we are producing quite a lot of data scientists and data engineers to come out to really help you guys. Not only the technical side, but also the master. I know that the University of Hong Kong, one of the top universities in Hong Kong, they are offering a master degree in business analytics. So this is for business people to learn about, to become a data-driven boss like Andy. So I think it's very important for technical side and business side, plus the data privacy thing we talk about. We have the rules, laws, we have the IP protection, and also the open data, how much data government is releasing to the public. So in Hong Kong, we have the open data platform. I know the government is going to release 1,000 API to access those open data in next year. So I think it's good time for Hong Kong or company in Hong Kong to really think about how we can make use of big data to really change your business model to make it even more monetize data much better than before. Hopefully we'll have more and more unicorns or more successful large company making use of big data. So I think the time is almost. So thank you so much for all the panelists. Let's give a big hand to them. Thank you.